Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to our informational sessions on the warrant articles for the January town meeting. My name is Amy Warfield. I'm your town clerk, and today I'll be going over what the main articles are, and we have a very small agenda for our town meeting on January 27th. The town meeting, if you're not aware, is run at the Burlington High School in the auditorium, and we'll start at 7:30. So this session, what we have is a number of articles that include zoning articles, financial articles, and some just general articles. And our zoning articles primarily deal with amendments to a particular zoning area called HighRise Industrial. And we'll have someone come and talk on that in a few minutes. The next set of articles are our financial articles, and they carry a variety of different items that will be talked about, which is mainly town meeting's chance to review what monies need to be transferred or moved around. And then the final area is the general articles. The general articles this time deal with a couple of road issues and a land issue in releasing back to a property owner deed property on land that they own. The general bylaw article this time is really a housekeeping measure following along with our vote from a year ago by the town to change our treasurer-collector position from an elected to an appointed position. So it's really just housekeeping and cleaning that up. So now let's go back to our zoning articles, and today we have Kristen Kasner, our planning director here, to really outline and tell us what those changes are going to be in the high-rise zone district.
Thank you, Amy, for having me on the town meeting show. Here to talk about life science, the IH amendment, and just tell you about the three rezonings. You'll hear a lot more about them in a presentation at town meeting, presentation which will very much look like the one you will see tonight. To start, last year in January of 2019, we came to you to pass a few amendments regarding life science in Burlington. One, to add life science to to the town zoning bylaws as a use, as well as define parking. We don't have, lab uses have far fewer people per square foot than traditional office, so we reduce the parking. And we also changed some of the allowed uses between the IG and the IH district. That was very successful. I thank all of the town meeting members for that vote. At the time, we were a bronze-rated community by Mass Biotech. I am proud to say and announce at September town meeting that we have been relabeled as a platinum community, which puts us on the map, which is fantastic. But with that said, as I mentioned in January, as well as over the last couple of months, Burlington is well suited for office environments. And Burlington has a lot of office. We don't have a lot of lab-ready sites or lab-ready spaces. So looking at that, we looked at amendments to the IH. There was some interest in IH because it was one of the zoning districts which we allowed life science by right. So therefore, we have the three parcels that came before us from Nordblom Gutierrez and from the 3 Van de Graaff Drive building for rezoning. Planning staff looking at IH looked at it and said, this would be great, but there's some tweaks we'd like to make with the IH district, which we have put forward for this town meeting. Lastly, just in terms of the history and timeline, the Board of Health has just recently adopted their revised biological safety regulations that are effective January 17th, 2020. So we're very pleased and happy and congratulate them on all their hard work. So on the next slide, some of the reasons why we're doing this. As I just mentioned, life science is concentrated in Kendall Square and Cambridge for the most part. However, there's actually more life science out in the suburbs. And in order to attract life science, the things that we're hearing from the brokers as well as life science companies is timing to market. A lot of these life science companies are 3, 5, 10 employees. They get funding from somewhere. Well, there's $10 billion in funding around life science in Massachusetts alone. And they need to go from 5-10 employees to 20-30 employees, but need to do it fast. So time to market is critical, which is why lab-ready sites are critical to attracting tenants into Burlington. And as I mentioned also before, that life science projects and buildings, because they have so much technically built into them, that they do very much command a higher price per square footage, as well as resulting in higher taxes for us with fewer employees and less parking and traffic. So we believe that life science as an industry is a good win-win and a good added industry to Burlington's market. Some of the next steps: to adjust the IH zoning district to bring it in line with the current town limits and character, as well as expand areas in the IH zoning district, as has been submitted with the 3 parcels that are asking to be rezoned from into the IH district. What have we done? The revised high-rise industrial zoning district. What we've done, just back in history, what was IH and what did it build? IH built 7 New England Executive Park. You might know it now as 700 District. It's the building at the end of District Ave. Very tall, huge buffers. Pretty much it was Burlington's kind of, not skyscraper, but it was 155 feet tall. The entire district was built around that building. That building's 11 stories. It was, of the time, common trends in kind of urban renewal, 1960s and 70s development. It has been surpassed by different types of smart growth and more walkable and pedestrian type environments. So looking at IH, when I first got here almost 17 years ago, looking at this district, why do we still have this district and no one's, do we really want this here? So this was a very good opportunity to bring this district into a more usable zoning district from 155 feet to 90 feet. The IG district is 80 feet. To more closely align with the height and character of our existing commercial buildings, creating more flexible setbacks to allow for flexibility in site design and kind of placement of the building on site. You'll see a lot of this with kind of the campus design, where in some of the campuses we have in town, buildings are clustered closer together, whereas the existing district forced buildings to be far apart from each other, which didn't allow for very good walkable space between buildings. We also did keep the setback protections of 100 feet with stepped height limits, which does allow for the height to gradually from residential go up. From 100, you can't build anything, and go up to the 90 feet. The other piece that is not highlighted on the slide that you just saw is that we have allowed for an exemption of 2 stories of under building parking under the building, because we brought the whole building height down, and from bringing that down, we didn't want to disincentivize under building parking, which could allow for additional green space on site instead of being used for parking, to exempt that first and second level. We do have an exemption for only 1 level closer to the residential districts, and that allows, again, more flexibility in site design, as well as it doesn't disincentivize someone from not building parking under buildings, because structured parking is expensive. So we felt that that was a good mix. Overall, on the next slide, we brought in Matt Daniels from Jones Lang LaSalle. He's a broker in the Burlington and suburban markets, especially focusing on life science. What this first slide shows is just really the job growth since the mid-2000s, 2007 to 2017, rapid growth in income and for the sector. So life science can bring in good jobs, high salary jobs for Burlington. The next slide gets at where are the clusters, and I mentioned before that there's actually more life science outside of Cambridge than in, but on the next slide, what you can see, especially in our region, is Burlington. Yet we do have Millipore. We have some other small companies, which are good for us, but there are very large clusters around us, and we happen to be kind of a donut hole among Woburn, Billerica, Bedford, and Lexington in terms of attracting companies to Burlington. And we talked about that a year ago in January, and we did start to get interest, but without space, where do we go? And that's why we're here today, to fill that donut hole. The next slide just gets at lab tenant timing. There's a demand for 1.2 million square feet, and this was, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, with 300,000 immediate demand. Just to emphasize that the demand is there. I mean, you can say if you build it, they will come, but if we actually do build it, attract it, we have the amenities here. Everyone around us says, oh, we're so close to Burlington and Burlington's so great. Why don't they say, come to Burlington, because we have all these amenities and it's great. So, town meeting and our department and other departments have worked really hard to create the environments we have here. Why don't we also create the high-paying jobs that are in life science? The next slide shows the 3 parcels. The light purple are the 3 existing IH districts. They are the Burlington Marriott, the Oracle site where the garage sits, and the Hilton Garden Inn. The new sites are 3 Van de Graaff Drive, 60 Blanchard Road, and the site which Millipore sits today. Next slide. These are just aerials of those sites. And if you look at the lines that are shown on these are the setbacks I was talking about for height limits from residential districts. So it would be stepped up. And the final slide. We have discussed with the board, the selectmen voted on the rezoning specifically. They were unanimously recommended favorably. Planning board recommended favorably on the IH amendments as well as the 3 rezonings. Land use committee on all 4 were unanimous. Zoning bylaw review committee only looked at the bylaw amendment, not the 3 rezonings, and they also recommended unanimously. So we thank all those committees and all their hard work and review, and we hope that town meeting will also vote favorably on Articles 2 through 5. And thank you very much for having me.
Our first financial article on the warrant will be a school's financial article for transfer from one warrant article to another warrant article, all in the school's budget. The town meeting has to vote on those types of transfers. And we have Bob Kuna from School Administration to review those changes with us.
Hello everyone, I'm Bob Kuna from the Burlington School Department. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Tonight, we are requesting that town meeting allow the transfer of funds from one warrant article to another warrant article. Last year, we requested money for the middle school to buy cafeteria tables. We were fortunate in that the purchase price of those tables came in less than we requested from town meeting. Another project that we were looking to fund is the Pine Glen sewer pump system. When we originally had it quoted, we came in at one lump sum of $14,000. When the work came to get done and the pumps were actually disassembled, we had some other options that could make our system run better. Those options came at a total of $11,576 over the $14,000 that we initially requested. If the funds were approved to transfer from the middle school cafeteria tables that were underspent, we would use that money to fund the additional upgrades for the Pine Glen sewer system. I think this is a worthy transfer of the funds and appreciate the support of town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for that clarification. The next financial article that we have is one proposed by Ways and Means member Phil Gallagher. Phil, can you tell us what an auction fund is?
Thank you, Amy. Article 8 is entitled the Auction Fund with a $50,000 value. It really should have no value because it's a sense of the meeting article to determine whether or not town meeting would want to adopt such a strategy. The origins of this are back in 30 years ago in the mid-80s when the 1978 blizzards were fresh in the mind of the community. At that time, the roads were so thin from the snowbanks that we didn't have heavy enough equipment to push them back and widen the roads. Jim Marchese came up with the idea that we could go to a military auction and see if we could buy some heavy equipment there. And subsequently, we did do that. And for $13,500, we bought a road grader, which is still in service now 30 years later, doing the same type of work. So an auction fund would work this way. If you fund it, as you know, auctions require that you show up with a bank check or cash in order for you to complete the deal. There isn't time for you to wait for town meeting appropriations, etc. This originated with the recent reports that we're having trouble getting contractors to do our snowplow work. The idea behind this would be to go to an auction and buy 4 or 5 Humvees or 2.5-ton trucks at auction values, which are somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 right now, and then leave those vehicles, well, we've set them up naturally with snowplows, and leave those vehicles in the yard until we need snowplows. Now, the advantage here, of course, is instead of renting large vehicles along with a driver, we would simply have our own vehicles, our own snow fighters, and we would only need to hire drivers. So again, the idea is to have that money available, vote it at zero balance to see if the town meeting is interested in pursuing it, and then allow the selectmen, once they get that approval, to come back to town meeting in May with the various purchasing and approval protocols. For instance, the town administrator and the chairman of the board, and say the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, so that that money would be available so that they could take advantage of what might be in military equipment available at auction. And you can look for yourself by going on the internet and plugging that in, military auctions, and you can see that Humvees right now are running between $5,000 and $10,000. And who knows what they're going to be, depending on the volume that comes in from various facilities that are putting those vehicles up for auction. So again, it's really a sense of the body article because it's not ready, the approval protocols are not ready, but does town meeting want to go forward with exploring this idea, vote it zero balance, and go from there? Thank you.
In review of the rest of the financial articles, the amending of the professional and administrative plan is due to some personnel changes and a reorganization of skills of the staff and putting into place the right jobs that are needed for the town in dealing with the purchasing agent and the budget analyst positions. The next financial article has actually been changed and is no longer really a financial article, but it's the Burlington Transportation Study. It'll be proposed on town meeting that this amendment will go in to instruct the moderator to appoint an ad hoc committee and to report to town meeting about transportation needs and problems in the town and possibly come up with solutions. This has been proposed by a town meeting member, Millie Nash. And so that will be what you'll be voting on Monday. The next 2 financial articles are standard financial articles that we have many times at the January town meeting. And it's to be able to move the money around, to be able to take from free cash or wherever, whatever source, to be able to deal with the water stabilization, which is our MWRA commitment, and to also replenish the reserve fund so that we have money in our reserve fund for transfers as needed. The final financial article is a little bit different. It's proposed by the selectmen and is being handled under the facilities division, John Sanchez and DPW. And that has to do with the fact of our historical museum. That's a building that has been in town many, many years and has had a number of different uses. And one of the problems right now is that it's not ADA compliant. And so we need to get that building up so that more people will be able to use it. One of the major uses that the Historical Commission does is they do a number of field trips for children and schools, and this will give them the ability to bring in all different kinds of people. The building will not be changed from the street, from the front at all, because again, we realize how its historical significance. But there is a drive in the back which will allow people to pull in a handicap van, a wheelchair van, and the lift will be back there on the back side. And so that's another financial need that the town has, and we'd like to move forward on that. And it's up to town meeting members to vote on that. Thank you once again for taking the time to listen to the explanations and the information from the different departments regarding the warrant articles for January 27th town meeting. Always, if you have any questions about any particular article, feel free to either call my office or to reach out to one of the department heads that was here tonight presenting. My number is on the screen there, and if you need to, you can also email me at awarfield@burlington.org. And thank you again for your time.